Hey everyone, happy hump day. Welcome to the Wednesday edition and early edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams along with Chris King. And Chris, as most of the people who saw that open saw your exploits as a goalkeeper in the NHL prior to retiring, and we're all very excited about
Yeah,
it.
I'm kind of like the emergency backup goalie the Carolina had, the Zamboni driver.
Right, driver.
Those were the
So
days.
those were the days, my friend. We were talking before as we got into the pre-show about how many things went right last night in college basketball. We had a good night in college basketball, my friend.
Yeah, we also had a good night on the ice again, which is always entertaining considering some of the rough days that we've had in the past. But again, it was another good night on the ice too, because we said Carolina was going to beat Vegas. That happened. We said Edmonton would get past Vancouver. At least Vancouver had their third string goalie, but that still panned out. Nashville beat Seattle. We talked about that. We talked about the Penguins beating the Coyotes. Yeah, they needed to score 4 times in the third period, but they still won. We said the Islanders would beat the Flyers. They pulled that one out after they tried to give the game away. So all in all, we talked about 5 hockey games yesterday, and all 5 of them panned out.
Yeah, and it was a pretty wild night.
11-0 this week in hockey.
Wow, there you go. Hey, the other thing that's interesting to me was, we talked about it. I got a chance to watch Colorado State play against Nevada. They're a legit top 25 team. They're not there yet. They were, and then they lost that game to San Diego State, which is their only loss. And, let's be honest, San Diego State is not a bad basketball team. So, losing to San Diego State was was nothing to be ashamed of. But, they played quite well last night in a game against not a bad Nevada team.
Right. I mean, and playing at home has worked well for Colorado State. I mean, they're unbeaten at home. Like you said, their one loss, that defeat to a San Diego State team that we've seen play good basketball all season long. People are going to overlook the Rams because of the fact that they play in a mid-major that nobody necessarily watches, because on the East Coast it starts late. On the West Coast they're worried about teams from the Pac-12. But, you can't sleep on this team because, they've already beaten some good clubs. They beat Creighton on a neutral floor. They've beaten St. Mary's, and everybody knows how good the Gales can be. They've beaten Mississippi State, and they're beating teams in their own conference.
Right. And the interesting thing to me was that they play well as a team, and they do a lot of pick and roll stuff, which you don't see hardly at all anymore. A lot of team basketball, a lot of, hit the open guy and take the shot. And Nevada, to their credit, Nevada hung with them most of the evening. But, one of your pet peeves and mine, when they went to the free throw line, it wasn't free and they didn't get it. So when that happened, they started, all of a sudden, the balls that didn't quite fall in for Colorado State started to fall in. And at that point, it's not going to be a nice night for you. So,
let's be honest.
Go ahead.
Let's be honest, it's tough to hang with a team like the Rams because they're so effective offensively. They're third in field goal percentage, shooting 50.2%. They're eighth in 2-point shooting, and they're seventh in the nation at the free throw line because they're hitting 79.7% after last night. You can't. It's hard to beat a team like that. You have to be good on your own offensively, but you also have to find a way to contest shots, and Nevada didn't do that yesterday.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about what's going on today. Let's move on. And we start off with Drake and Illinois State.
Yes, this coming from the all-exciting, well-named venue of the Redbird Arena in Illinois State, and the probably poorly named town of Normal, Illinois. That's where Illinois State is. I don't know what's so normal about it, but
there's nothing normal about Illinois.
Yeah, they're going to face a Drake team that's pretty good. Drake's 14-6. Illinois State is 10-10 this year. Drake's 4-1 on the road, while Illinois State's 9-2 at home. They've still come in with 5 losses in their last 7. And what's even worse is they lost at Evansville Sunday by 3 after beating them by 38 at home on Friday night. How do you go from scoring 94 points against a team and then score 53 against them 48 hours later? I don't get. But that's Illinois State in a nutshell. They don't play defense very well. And that's going to be a problem. They're facing a Drake team that's won 8 out of 10. They rallied from 10 down with under 3.5 minutes to go to overtime and beat Northern Iowa on the road Saturday, 82-74. And we're looking, even with those 2 decent games that Illinois State took defensively, they're still 327th in scoring defense, giving up 76 points a game. They're 227th in field goal defense. They're 95th in 3-point defense. Drake can shoot from out there. They've got Tucker DeVries and company, Garrett Sturtz. Drake is 16-5 against the spread in their last 21 after an ATS win. Meanwhile, Illinois State 2-5-1 in their last 8 as a home underdog. Drake's won 4 straight meetings in this series and 6 of the last 7, including an 86-75 win at home 2 weeks ago in the first meeting between these clubs this season. You have to think that Drake can go on the road and beat an Illinois State team that's obviously flat. How do you lose to Evansville?
I don't know, but clearly Drake figured it out. I'm sorry, Illinois State figured it out. The Redbirds. So from normal, we go to abnormal, and that would be.
We're going to go to Chattanooga down in the SoCon. The Chattanooga Mocs are going to face the Wofford Terriers. I'm unfortunately very familiar with Wofford and Furman because they're both in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Wofford, they had a good team for a while before, but now Mike Young, he left Wofford, took the job at Virginia Tech. A lot of the guys that were on some of those teams that made runs into the tournament are no longer there. So Jay McCauley's got his hands full. His team's 12-8, but they're going to face a Chattanooga team that is 16-4 this season. Wofford 5-4 on the road, but the Mocs are 8-1 at home. Chattanooga 65th in scoring offense, 76.7 points a game. They're 36th in field goal percentage. They're 65th in three-point shooting. And they're another one of those teams that we talked about yesterday when we talked about free throw shooting. They're another mid-major that's a quality team at the charity stripe. They're shooting 75.1% at the line. That's 51st in the country. Wofford, they're good in scoring defense. They only give up 66 points a game, but if you look further down, it's because of tempo. They're 314th in two-point defense. As opposing teams shoot 52.4%. They're 295th in field goal percentage defense at 45.2. They're 322nd by giving up 8.7 threes a game. And they're 329th in three-point defense at 36.7%. These two teams met a couple weeks ago at Wofford. Chattanooga won 75-67. The Mocs are 19-6-1 again, and they're last 26 after an 8 loss. They're 16-6 against the spread in their last 22 on Wednesday. Wofford 2-7 against the spread in their last 9, following a straight-up loss by more than 20 points. They lost 75-50 at home to Furman over the weekend, and they're 1-4 in their last 5 against teams with a winning percentage of .600. You have to think that it's going to be an uphill climb for Wofford going on the road here. I'm taking Chattanooga, giving the 5.5 in this one.
Yeah, Chattanooga's always been a tough little team to play, even for the big boys. So see that the Moccasins will probably do well moving forward. But okay.
Yeah, I don't know who shortened it to Mocs. I thought that was a good idea, but
I'm sorry?
I said I don't know who came up with the brilliant idea to shorten it to just Mocs, but it looks dumb when you see it on a jersey.
It does. It's not. Yeah, it doesn't make for very good television. But hey, let's just hope that they make it to the Sweet 16 or maybe the Elite 8. Who knows? I mean, Chattanooga could be a surprise team. All right, let's move over to the ice where there's all kinds of fun stuff going on. After we've been 8-0 the past couple of days.
11-0.
11-0 over the past couple of days. So let's flame on as we go to the Flames and the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, this game's coming to you from the Nationwide Arena in Columbus. Calgary is 19-12-6. Columbus 18-20-1. You have to wonder how long the leash is going to be for for the Blue Jackets over there, because they're fading fast in the Metropolitan Division. Calgary's 13-8-2 on the road. Columbus 11-8-1 on home ice. It's going to be Jacob Markstrom, 14-9-5 with a 221 goals against, a 924 save percentage, and 5 shutouts between the pipes for the Flames. Meanwhile, Elvis Merzlikins, 14-10-1 with 306 goals against, a 912 save percentage, and 2 shutouts for the Blue Jackets. Calgary is 11th in the league in goals per game at 3.19, but they're very good in their own end. They are third in goals against, giving up just 2.54 goals a night this year. Meanwhile, Columbus is a middle-of-the-pack team offensively, 15th at 3.03 goals a game, but they're 27th by giving up 3.54 goals a night. The Blue Jackets have struggled when it comes to stopping opposing teams of late, and that's going to be a problem for them here. Calgary is 6-2 in their last 8 as a favorite on the road. They are 6-2 in their last 8 against teams with a losing record. Columbus 1-7 against an opponent coming off scoring at least 5 goals in their last game. Of course, Calgary coming in off an impressive shellacking of St. Louis when we told you on Monday night that the Flames would take care of the Blues. They won that one going away 7-1. Columbus 1-5 at home in their last 6 at the Nationwide Arena, and the Flames have won the last 4 meetings overall. Not to mention they've taken 4 of the last 5 meetings between these teams in Columbus. You have to think that the Flames can skate away with another win as they try to gain some ground in the Pacific Division. They're 9 points behind Vegas for the division lead, but they've got 5 games in hand on the Knights. So this could be a nice chance to cut into that advantage that Vegas has in the standings as they try to make a push for a playoff spot.
You know, Chris, we have a lot of people who are new to the gaming industry. And if you could, why don't you explain? It's Calgary minus 190 over Columbus. Why is it 190, and explain what that is, okay?
Sure, the minus 190, it just means normally if a game is even, you'll see things go off at minus 110, meaning that you have to bet $110 to get back 100. In this case, it would be you'd have to bet 190 to win 100 on top of what you already bet. So you would get 290 back of the 190 because you get the 190 that you bet plus the 100 for evening it out. Normally, a lot of people will try to jump on the plus side of bets because, then you're going to earn some sort of return on your investment. If you bet 100 at plus 150, you're going to get 150 back if that team wins. Mm-hmm. Of course, the problem is, as I used to say, with great power comes great responsibility. And if you try to wager too much on underdogs, hoping that you're going to catch a profit, it doesn't necessarily pan out that way because they're underdogs for a reason.
Right.
So you have to kind of be careful. You don't want to just blindly chase after everybody that's plus 150 or plus 200. Or in the case of the Coyotes yesterday, they were going off at 350 against the Penguins.
Right.
So you kind of have to be careful in that regard.
All right. Well, thanks for the explanation. Let's move past Columbus, or goodbye Columbus. We're moving on to
an original 6-man.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody remembers the days when the Blackhawks and the Red Wings, you'd see Stan Mikita and Gordie Howe or Ted Lindsay or, Bobby Hull, guys like that. Now it's, Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews for Chicago and a whole bunch of guys that nobody really pays attention to in Detroit because Detroit hasn't been good in a while. But I look for them to get the win here at the Little Caesars Arena tonight. Still find it funny that they name it after one of the worst pizza chains in the world. But, hey, Mike Ilitch owned the team.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mr. Ilitch got the advantage. I remember, by the way, doing Red Wings hockey, and Mike Ilitch built a little, what looked like a Quonset hut that was over the where the Zamboni comes in, and he actually would go and sit in that box. There was only room for 2 people in it. It was like a little mini treehouse, and they would watch. He liked watching the game right above the ice, and that way he wasn't blocking anybody's seats. He didn't really like sitting up in the owner's suite, so he would sit in this little box right behind the Zamboni thing, right over the ice, and watch the games and eat his pizza. So
surprised they didn't call it the Pizza Arena.
Well, that's back when they played at Joe Louis Arena.
Yeah,
Back
well,
in the
at least
day.
people knew who Joe Louis was. People are like, nobody really pays attention to Little Caesars because their pizza's not that good. I mean, let's be honest.
Pizza. There you go.
Just made a ton of money off that, but
yeah, I think we've burned any possibility we might have of ever getting Little Caesars as a sponsor. So let's just keep moving on.
Well, I will say their crazy bread is good.
Okay, there you go. Give them a little love. I can tell you this: I ate a lot of Little Caesars pizza when I worked in Detroit. But there you go. I'm sorry.
I'm surprised you didn't eat Domino's.
Well, remember that both Illich and Monahan who started Domino's, and Illich, who started Little Caesars, are both graduates of the University of Michigan Business School. And both of them used that same theory. Monahan got a C, saying that there's no way that people would like, his concept of pizza or delivery services. And I don't know what Illich got in his grade, but they both are graduates of the University of Michigan School of Business, and proud Wolverines, I guess would be the way to put it. Hey, Marc-Andre Fleury's back. I can see on your.
Yep. Yeah, he's supposed to get the start for Chicago tonight. He's 13-3 with a 276 goals against and 3 shutouts. It'll be Alex Nedeljkovic, who everybody remembers was the backup in Carolina last year. He's gone to Detroit. He's done a pretty decent job taking over the number 1 netminder spot there. Now that Jonathan Bernier went to New Jersey and Thomas Grace has been out with an illness, he's 12-11-5 with 279 goals against, 915 save percentage, of 1 shutout. The big thing here is Chicago doesn't score a whole lot. They average just 2.29 goals per game. It's better than only the Islanders and the Coyotes. That drops down to 2.26 goals per game on the road. Detroit, they're not a whole lot better. They're 24th in goals per game at 2.67, but they do average 3 goals a game on home ice, which is probably why they're 13-6-3 at home. Detroit is 5-0 in their last 5 games as a favorite. They're 6-0 in their last 6 as a home favorite, and they're 5-0 in their last 5 against teams with a winning percentage below .400. Chicago has gone 1-6 in their last 7 after scoring 2 or less, and they are 0-4 in their last 4 overall. Technically, you can say they're 0-2-2 because they have a couple shootouts. They lost to Seattle and Colorado. But either way, they've lost 4 in a row after that 4-game win streak. I like Detroit, which is something I don't normally say because I don't really like the Red Wings at all from the original 6 perspective of the rivalries that existed back then. Mm-hmm. But, Detroit, you have to give Jeff Blashill credit. He's done a good job turning that team around, keeping them in playoff contention. They're at 500 at this point of the season. You have to think about how poorly Detroit has been in recent years, and it's a nice boost for the city to be able to see that the Red Wings may be on the upswing.
Right, because the Pistons aren't representing well at this point. So.
Right, and I guess the hope is the Tigers might be on the upswing if they ever play baseball again. But
that's a hope.
And of course, there's the Lions.
Of course, there's always the Lions. All right, well, we're leaving Motown and motoring off to the NBA. And so, where do we go in the association?
We're going to deal with the Heat and the Knicks.
Okay.
And this game comes to you from the FTX Arena down there in South Beach. The Knicks 23-25. The Heat are 30-17. Miami 16-5 at home this year. The Knicks 11-11 on the road. Both teams good on the defensive end of the floor. The Heat fourth in the league. At scoring defense at 104.1 points per game. They're ninth in field goal percentage defense at 44.3%. The Knicks fifth in scoring defense at 104.3 points a game, and they're also fifth in field goal percentage, holding opposing teams to 44% shooting from the floor. The Knicks, however, struggle on the offensive end of the floor. Jim, they're just 27th in scoring offense at 103.9 points per game. They're 27th in field goal percentage at 43.6. Tom Thibodeau has to find a way to get some sort of offensive production if he hopes to have the team have success long term. Defense isn't going to get it done if you're only scoring just over 103 points a game. The Knicks are 8-19 in their last 27 on one-day arrest. They're 2-5 in their last 7 as a road underdog, and they're 1-4 in their last 5 against teams with winning percentage above 600. Meanwhile, Miami's 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 on Wednesday, 5-1 in their last 6 as a favorite, and 5-1 in their last 6 against teams with a losing record. The latest injury report for this game shows that the Knicks will be without Ryan Arcidiacono with sprained ankle. Derrick Rose, of course, out after ankle surgery. Nerlens Noel and Mitchell Robinson both questionable for this one. If they don't play, then the Knicks have no big man to speak of. With Bam Adebayo back for Miami, that's a big boost for them. Also, Tyler Hero is available. He's out of the health and safety protocols. That's a big boost for Miami as well from the shooting perspective. They won't have Kyle Lowry, who's out for personal reasons. Markieff Morris still trying to come back from that neck injury. He's been out for, 2+ months now. Victor Oladipo will recover from the knee. And Kezio Alcala also out with a wrist sprain. But still, with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, and now Hero back in the mix, plus Robinson, you have to think that the Heat and Eric Spoelstra have too many weapons for the Knicks to contend with. Take the Heat at home, -6.
We talked a little before the show about how Miami was doing pretty well, leading the division, and had spent, had a lot of players banged up, and and are now getting everybody back. That's got to bode well for Miami moving forward. If you got your big studs, coming back, and you were 30-17 when you were, at half strength. So it either is an indictment of the Southern Division, or it's good news for Miami. Either way.
Well, not just that. I mean, not only are they leading the Southeast Division, they actually have the best record in the Eastern Conference going into tonight's action. They're a half game ahead of the Bulls, with the Nets and the Bucks 1 game back. Sadly, the East it's pretty clustered. The top 6 teams, Miami, Chicago, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Cleveland, and Philadelphia, all separated by just 2 games.
Wow. Yeah, that makes it. It's going to make for a very interesting. It's going to be like a NASCAR final month of the season when we get to that point. So
yeah,
all right.
It'll be like trying to make a pass at Bristol.
Right. Yeah. Good luck with that. All right. So from South Beach, we go to
Indiana. Well, I thought that actually cleaned it, but I guess not.
There's an opportunity to go from the warmth to the cold in a heartbeat. So Charlotte.
Yeah, the Hornets favored by 2 at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. The Hornets 26-22, Indiana 17-31. The Pacers 12-12 at home, Charlotte 13-15 on the road. The Hornets playing a second game of back-to-back played. In that one, they didn't play defense to save their lives. But they're facing an Indiana team that's lost 6 of 8 and who won't have 3 of their starting 5, which is always a recipe for failure. Charlotte's second in the league in scoring offense at 114 points per game. They're 13th in field goal percentage at 46-1, and they're 4th in three-point shooting. Charlotte 10-3 in their last 13 after scoring at least 100 points in their last game. They're 9-3 in their last 12 following a straight-up loss. Indiana 1-5-1 against the spread in their last 7 against teams with a losing road record. 1-3-1 in their last 5 following a straight-up loss. And that bottom line, which you can't see because it's cut off, because I thought I cleaned it up enough, but I didn't. The Hornets 5-0 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between these teams. You can't really have a ton of faith in the Pacers. Injury report shows for this one that Indiana will be minus. Malcolm Brogdon out with that sore Achilles. Domantas Sabonis out with an ankle sprain. Miles Turner out with a stress reaction in his foot. Meanwhile, the missing piece for Charlotte, Jalen McDaniels out with an ankle sprain. Gordon Hayward is questionable with foot discomfort. He didn't play yesterday. I don't think that the Hornets necessarily need him in this one, especially with both Sabonis and Turner missing, taking 2 big men out of the lineup, and Brogdon, who runs the point. They put a lot of pressure on Karis LeVert and company to try to hang in here. And let's face it, we've talked about it repeatedly, Indiana is not the team that they were a couple seasons ago. You can't really trust them even at home here, especially only being a 2-point underdog. You like Charlotte to bounce back from last night's debacle and get back in the win column.
Okay, well, let's go from here to 2 for the money.
Yeah, it's a fast show today, isn't it?
It seems that way, yeah. Okay.
I think a lot of people forgot that we're on at 1 on Wednesdays.
Well, we'll have to jump on our social media team for that. Okay.
Yeah, like we said, for the top 2, I like Drake -4 over Illinois State. We talked about how the Redbirds, they've played well at home, but they've lost 5 out of 7. Drake has won 8 of their last 10. They already beat Illinois State at home. Dan Muller, not to be confused with ex-Florida and Ole Miss coach Dan Mullen, the coach for Illinois State, he's got to find a way to get his team to play defense because they can't try to outgun teams the way they've been doing in the early going of the season. It's not going to pan out come Missouri Valley Conference tournament time, and that could lead to another quick exit for the Redbirds. Atlanta -9 over Sacramento. Jim, I don't know if you saw any of the excitement that was Boston and Sacramento last night, but good God, that game was terrible.
I was going to turn it on, and then I thought, well, I'm going to watch this Nevada-Colorado State game for a little while. So I missed it. I'll have to take your word for it.
It was over by the time the first quarter was over. Boston led 38-13 and went on to a narrow 128-75 win over the Kings. So they just covered the 9-point line in that one. Just squeaked by.
That's all right. They covered. That's the key.
It was a terrible game. Sacramento shot 31% from the field. Boston, on the other hand, shot an even 50%, including 20 of 45 from 3. Somebody needs to tell Harrison Barnes to stop shooting the ball. He was 1 for 12 and 0 for 6 from 3, finished with 4 points in 30 minutes. He was a -34. Sadly, he wasn't the worst minus guy on the floor. That was Tyrese Halliburton for the Kings, who was 2 for 9 from the floor, finished with 7 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and he was a -40. So,
Super Sly is just happy to be here. So, Super Sly, we're happy to have you, buddy.
And there's nothing wrong with being tied up with work. That happens to everybody.
We all have that same problem, my friend. But nice to have you with us.
But yeah, the Hawks -9. They've won 4 in a row. They're facing a Sacramento team that just lost by 53. You have to feel pretty confident that the Hawks can get the win at home. And that one to make it 5 wins in a row as they try to get back into the playoff picture. Then we just talked about Charlotte -2 over Indiana, and we said earlier Calgary -190 over Columbus. The Flames coming off that 7-1 beatdown of the Blues. The Blue Jackets, who the hell knows what they're doing because they can't put together consistent play with any kind of regularity. And that's their problem, which is why they're so far out of the playoff picture as it stands right now. You look at the Blue Jackets of late. Let's just take a look here. They just lost 2-1 to Ottawa over the weekend. Before that, they lost 5-2 to Pittsburgh. They were beaten 9-2 by the Panthers a couple of weeks ago. So you look here, they're 0-3, 1-3, 1-4. They are 3-7 in their last 10 games. They've given up at least 5 goals in 4 of those games, including that 9-goal outburst by Florida. They also gave up 7 to Tampa Bay, 7 to Carolina, 5 to Pittsburgh, and they scored once against Ottawa. That's a pretty damning indictment when you can't score against the Senators. So we'll take the Flames on the road to get the win there.
There you go. All right. We've got 2 for the money. Let's play 4 for the show.
There we go. Creighton -3 over Butler. What can we say about Butler? Other than they're horrible offensively. Lavelle Jordan, I don't know. Maybe he can go find some scorers off the street or something, but the Bulldogs, they've lost 4 in a row. They've lost 6 of 7. They lost to Providence the other day. They're 9-10 overall. They're 2-6 in the Big East. They shoot 29.8% from three. Their effective field goal percentage is 46.6, is 291st in the country. They're 288th in free throw percentage. They're 350th in block percentage because they get 13.5% of their shots blocked. They try to slow things down to a snail's pace, but it's not going to work against Creighton. I mean, Creighton, they've won 2 straight. They beat St. John's. They played a rock fight with DePaul Saturday, won that one 60-47. You have to remember, Creighton also owns a win over Villanova where they beat the Wildcats by 20 back in December. So they're not going to be too intimidated going into the Hinkle Fieldhouse. I know Greg McDermott won't be coaching, but I still like the chances for Creighton in that one, especially only giving 3 points. Our good buddies from Vermont. Yeah, the Catamounts. We talked about them beating Stony Brook a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you remember that, Jim.
Oh, I do.
And they whipped Stony Brook 98-65 in Vermont because we said that Stony Brook was just like New Hampshire. They come to Vermont, they get some maple syrup, they get beat, they go home and have pancakes. This one will be in Pennsylvania, so Vermont will go down, maybe get some Tremonti brothers, or maybe they'll stop by Pat's or Gino's or Jim's on the way back, and get some cheesesteaks or something. But they'll leave with a win anyway.
Maybe they'll take some syrup down to the folks at Stony Brook just to give them something to do.
There you go. The Heat -6 over the Knicks, and Denver -2 over the Nets. I'm going with this one. A lot of people are thinking that both teams are playing the second game of a back-to-back here. The Nuggets beat the Pistons. The Nets lost to the Lakers. The Lakers obviously won't have Durant. They won't have Kyrie Irving because this is at the Barclays Center. They won't have Paul Millsap. People are starting to think that maybe Steve Nash rest James Harden for this one because of being the second game of a back-to-back situation. Meanwhile, the Nuggets have Nikola Jokic, of course. Will Barton is expected to play tonight as well. I'm just going to check and see if there's any new updates on the report there or not. The last I saw, the Nets hadn't submitted their injury report yet, which they're supposed to, but sometimes the league's slow about getting that out.
Our buddy Ryan has a question for you there, Chris, on hockey tonight.
Oh, you're going to the Sharks Capitals game. Yes. Well, I have that in the Shot in the Dark statement, actually. Coming up in just a moment. I just pulled up my stat page here because I had it up before. Washington is going off as a rather heavy favorite in that one, -220. The Sharks starting Aiden Hill in net 9-11-1, 278 goals against, 901 save percentage, and 1 shutout. It's supposed to be, unless you've heard anything different, Jim, it's supposed to be Ilya Samsonov, 13-4-3, with 277 goals against, 903 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. I don't think they would go to Vitek Vanacek.
No.
Now apparently Aiden Hill has now been ruled out. So he has a lower body injury. So I guess that means we're going to see James Reimer would be my guess. As for who between the pipes for San Jose, I'm just double checking to see if they have anything new on that. Let's see. Yeah, they've confirmed now that it'll be James Reimer. He's 12-8-1 with a 914 save percentage and a 288 goals against. It is Samsonov for Washington. He hasn't started in 10 days, which is strange. I'm surprised by that Washington hasn't been using him as much. But I like Washington in this one. They're going to bounce back. They had that tough 1-0 loss to Vegas the other night, which was disappointing. A big blow for San Jose the other day. Erik Karlsson is out until mid-March with an upper body injury. A big dent to their blue line. They're also minus Kevin LeBanc, among others. I know that the Capitals don't have TJ Oshie or Anthony Mantha, but anytime you've got number 8 on the ice, you have to think that Washington will be in good shape. San Jose, by the way, 0-7 in their last 7 as an underdog. They're 0-4 in their last 4 as a road underdog. They're 1-4 in their last 5 overall. I know Washington slumped a little bit lately, but they've won. Washington's won the last 4 meetings between these teams. I expect that the Capitals will get the victory at the Capital One Arena. Ted Leonsis' building there. Hopefully, you have a good time. You'll have to let us know how overpriced the beers are. I don't know if Jim knows about that or not. Have you been to the Capital One?
They're pretty much in line. By the way,
Are they?
our buddies at Caesars Sportsbook, they have a place right there at the Capitol Arena. As a matter of fact, the Capitals were the first of the NHL teams to have on their jerseys a Caesars insignia. So they're loving our friends from Caesars Sportsbook over at the Capital One Arena. But it'll be fun. Let's go from 2 for the. We went from 2 for the money to 4 for the show, and now our fun part where we basically mix and match. Next,
well, of course, Ryan said he's a Sharks fan, so he hopes that the Capitals lose. Well, at least you're close enough to actually see your. Yeah, at least you're close enough that you can see your team. I know that for me, being a Toronto fan, when I used to live up in New York State, it was easy because I could go up to the KeyBank Center, and it seemed like every time you watched the Leafs Sabres game, the arena was pretty much split down the middle anyway, with fan base wise, because you always had people coming down from Toronto to go to Buffalo to watch the games because tickets were cheaper. Mm-hmm. Now here, the closest venue, if I would see Toronto play, I'd have to go to Raleigh, which is 3.5, 4 hours, I think, from here. Because Atlanta doesn't have a team anymore because they moved to Winnipeg. Mm-hmm. So it'd be either there or Nashville, but I don't know how far Nashville is. Probably about the same.
I was going to say it might be an extra half hour, 45 minutes.
Is it?
Yeah, give or take.
So at least you get to see the Sharks, Ryan. I'm sorry that Erik Karlsson won't be in uniform. But hopefully you have a good time anyway, and just enjoy the fact that you get to see your favorite team on the ice. It's always a fun time, no matter whether it's at your own arena or if it's at somebody else's arena. I mean, you can't take away the experience of being at the game.
Nah, and you know what? A lot of people, as we go to our shot in the dark for the day, a lot of people who have never. They've not warmed up to hockey yet. Get them to a game. You get them to a game, and they're suddenly hockey fans because they don't realize how much goes on. What they don't see on television. I mean, you've got the line changes. You got guys coming in and off the ice. When you say to somebody, well, the line with Ovechkin and Nick Backstrom and that TJ Oshie and those guys, they're on max 2 minutes at a time.
Right.
And they're looking at you like, where did they go? Well, they move one line in, another line goes off, and then and they continue to rotate. And when you get them to the arena and they see this and they see all of the orchestration that goes on with it, it becomes, and again, it's loud, it's fun, and the players get into it, and it's it's a wonderful experience. If you ever have a chance to go, I don't know where you're closest. As Chris said, his is closest to Raleigh, but if you ever get a chance to go, even to a minor league hockey game, they're fun to watch.
Yeah, we do have minor league hockey here in Greenville. We have the Swamp Rabbits of the East Coast League.
Right. So shot in the dark.
My favorite time was back in 2000. Well, right before the lockout that wiped out that entire season. Mm-hmm. I worked at what was then it wasn't the KeyBank Center, then it was the Marine Midland Arena, and I worked security there, and I worked the back parking lot where the players parked and everything. And at that point, the Sabres were actually decent. They had Chris Drury and Daniel Briere and all those guys. Mm-hmm. And Drury gave me tickets to take my grandfather to a game, and we watched. Sadly, we watched them play the Atlanta Thrashers, which shows how exciting that was. But just to take him to go to a game like that, it's something that you don't forget, and it'll be that way for whoever you go with,
Mm-hmm.
and you make a lot of memories that way.
Right. And as I said, you can turn. It's always fun to take somebody to an event and turn them into a fan without you having to say a word.
Exactly.
So
we'll move on now to the. Yep. We'll start with college basketball. A Big Ten matchup coming to you from Bloomington. The good old Assembly Hall there. Indiana -8.5 over Penn State. The Nittany Lions don't score a ton of points. They're going to have to try to slow this one down and keep the Hoosiers in check. But Rick Woodson, he's 12-1 at home this year. I like Indiana to get the victory here and keep moving along. And Jim, you were talking about yesterday that we've got somebody coming up Friday that's really going to knows a lot about Florida State, knows about Leonard Hamilton's team. I like the Seminoles tonight on the road at Georgia Tech. It seems that Hamilton's found some footing there all of a sudden, as we saw Florida State have some struggles in the first part of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But they roll in now with 6 straight wins on the books. They beat Miami. They've beaten Duke. Actually, they beat Miami twice. They beat them both, won both those games by 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
So they've won 6 in a row and 8-9 after going into mid-December as a 5-4 team. They're now 13-5. They're 6-2 in the ACC. I don't know what your take on what Leonard Hamilton's done is, or what you think of Georgia Tech. But Georgia Tech, they started strong. They were 5-1. Since then, they're 3-9. And one of their wins was over Clayton State, which good luck if you've ever heard of them.
Or find it, yeah.
They're not a division.
Well, this is kind of Leonard Hamilton's MO. If he's going to get off, he gets off to a slow start, and he starts to build, and he starts to get the team back and gets them set up. And by the time the tournament rolls around, both the ACC tournament and then the NCAA tournament, Florida State's playing decent basketball. That's so, it's not an uncommon thing to see them start off a little slow. But they're hot now, and are they playing in Atlanta, or is that game in Tallahassee at the Leon County?
That game in Atlanta.
Oh, it's in where? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It's in Tallahassee, or
No,
where
it's
is
in Atlanta.
Oh, it's in Atlanta. Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, Leonard's team will show up, and you got Davidson and VCU. Now that over the years has been a really good little rivalry there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of you're talking about a really crowded A10 field too, because you've got Davidson, they're 16-2. You've got VCU has played, like you said, they played some good basketball, and these two teams have a lot of animosity because of like you said, it's been a bitter rivalry for several years. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you just how tough, we talk about mid majors and being overlooked. VCU is 11-6. Dayton is 13-7. St. Louis is 12-6. Richmond is 13-7. Rhode Island is 12-6. St. Bonaventure is 11-4, and Davidson is 16-2. So you're talking, you got 6 or 7 teams right there that are, quality basketball teams, and only 1 or 2 of them is going to actually get into the tournament come March. So it's going to be a battle all the way through.
Yeah, I was going to say, that conference probably deserves more, but they're going to be lucky to get 2. They might squeeze on, depending upon what happens in the bigger conferences. They might be able to squeeze a 3rd team in there, but it's going to be it's going to be those top 2 that come out of there, and certainly those 2 teams playing tonight, Davidson and VCU, either one of them could be one of those top 2.
Yeah, Davidson 6-0 in the A10, VCU 4-2. So, it's going to be a good matchup for sure. Also, St. Bonaventure will play George Mason. That's another matchup of teams near the top of the conference.
If you want, we can skip the next one. But
yeah, Jim just wants us to skip over the fact that South Florida is on the list because it's his alma mater, and he feels bad that we pick on them. But
no, I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad because it's true. I mean, there's no reason. There's a reason why SMU is an 8.5 point favorite over South Florida. Their better. I'm stunned that it's only that. I mean, it could be worse.
Well, it's at what is it, the Yuengling Center?
The Yingling
So
Center, yeah.
yeah, so that's why. I think if they were playing in Dallas, it would be a different line.
Right.
But just to make Jim's point, these teams met 2 weeks ago at the Moody Coliseum over there at SMU, and SMU won by a dozen. South Florida hasn't played since last Tuesday when they were beaten at the road at the Fertitta Center by Houston. SMU's won 3 in a row. They're coming off a road win over Memphis. I'll tell you what, Jim, Tim Jankovic does not get enough credit for what he's done with that SMU team.
Mm-hmm.
They started the year 3-3. Since then, they've won 11 of 12. The one loss was at Cincinnati. He's 5-1 in the AAC. He's 14-4 overall. You can't sleep on these guys. I mean, they beat Vanderbilt, they beat Dayton, they beat New Mexico, they've beaten, they've beaten everybody in the conference other than Cincinnati so far. I mean, they haven't played Houston yet. Strangely, they'll only get the Cougars once, which I guess is the problem with those 87-team conferences where you sometimes
balanced schedule.
And that might work well for Jankovic. I think the last team you want to face, if you're anybody, is the Houston Cougars in the AAC.
Well, I've started a petition for South Florida to try to pry Rick Pitino out of the New York area and send him south, but we'll see how that works.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll leave there, but I guess anything's possible. I guess you could promote the no income tax down there.
That's right. And they could probably pay him more. All right, we're on Memphis and San Antonio. Didn't San Antonio's played a lot lately?
Yeah, they played yesterday against the Rockets and rolled to a 134-104 win. A lot of people think that the over is a good play here too, but I'm always a little leery when the number is like 228 or 229, which is where it sits. Injury report. Let me just take a look and see if there's anything new and exciting. Who knows? Let's see if they have actually. Yep, there's the 130 report. Let's see who we've got on it for San Antonio. Let's see. San Antonio says
the answer is
that they haven't submitted an injury report. Okay, great, fantastic. Well, yesterday they didn't have anybody to report anyway because Kata Bates Diop was the only one out with protocols. Zach Collins was down in the G League. For Memphis, Kyle Anderson in the protocols, he's out. Dylan Brooks out with an ankle sprain. He's out until February. Tyus Jones also in the protocols. Meanwhile, Desmond Bain is questionable, and so is Brandon Clark. Bain's in the protocols. Clark has a sore back. Just going to check here and see if there was any updates on Brooklyn's injury report. Brooklyn says Nick Claxton is not going to play with a hamstring. David Duke's in the G League. Durant, of course, out. Harris out. Kyrie Irving, of course, not playing. Paul Millsap out. So as of right now, they haven't ruled James Harden out, but that doesn't mean Nash won't rest him. I would watch out for that just because, you never know. And back to that Sacramento-Atlanta game, De'Aaron Fox is questionable for the Kings. He didn't play last night. I don't think it would have mattered considering how badly they played. The Bulls and the Raptors, we talked about the Hornets losing to the Raptors last night. Toronto will be playing the second game of a back-to-back here. Out for Toronto, Ken Birch with a broken nose, Isaac Bongas with the G League. Dragic, of course, took his ball and went home. Fred VanVleet is questionable with a sore knee for Toronto. For Chicago, Lonzo Ball, of course, out after knee surgery. Alex Caruso out with a broken wrist. Derek Jones out with an hyperextended knee. Meanwhile, Patrick Williams after that wrist injury where he had a ligament tear until April. Tyler Cook questionable with an eye contusion, and Nikola Vucevic is probable with a knee bruise. I think that he'll play at Lake Chicago at home after having the day off. Both teams playing the third game in 4 nights. Milwaukee -4 over Cleveland. That game coming to you from the Rocket Mortgage Field. The Bucks are right behind the Bulls for the in the Central Division. Cleveland's right behind them. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he missed the last game for the Bucks. He's probable tonight with a sore knee. Wesley Matthews out. Brooke Lopez, of course, out. He's played one game all season. Grayson Allen will not tonight for Milwaukee. He'll serve that one-game suspension for the flagrant 2 he took on Caruso that broke his wrist. For Cleveland, of course, you won't have Ricky Rubio and Colin Sexton. They're both out for the year. Lauri Markkanen is out with an ankle sprain. Jarrett Allen is questionable with an illness, so watch out for that. On the ice, Colorado and Boston, that coming to you from the Ball Arena. Colorado, I like the Avalanche. Obviously, you lead the league in goal scoring. You have to think that the Avalanche will take care of the Bruins. The Elias Olmark in net for the Bruins against Darcy Kemper. I like the Maple Leafs at home. They get to come home after that road trip. They beat the Islanders Saturday, so they've got 3 days off. They face an Anaheim team that's been floundering a bit of late. And like we said, unfortunately for Ryan, I went Washington over the Sharks. I didn't know he was a Sharks fan at the time. All he said he was going to the game. I thought that maybe he was root for Washington. One last thing, real quick, Jim, since James asked, Winthrop, I guess USC upstate in the South.
What about USC?
Winthrop favored by a touchdown. They're 3-6 on the road. USC upstate is 8-10 overall. They have won 5 in a row. You figure it out because they haven't been a great team for Dave Dickerson in recent years. Coming up with a 70-57 win over Charleston Southern. Winthrop lost to High Point on the road as a 12.5 point or a 3.5 point favorite. They lost outright 65-56. Winthrop. Let me take a quick look here at the numbers. Winthrop is 23rd in effective field goal percentage at 55%. They're 55.9% from inside the arc. They are susceptible to giving up points on the defensive end. They're 306th in three-point defense. They're facing a USC FC team, like I said, is improving. And the big thing that can keep the Spartans in the game is the 22nd in the nation, shooting 37.9% from beyond the arc. Meanwhile, they defend well on the perimeter. They don't defend well inside. I think that 7 points is probably a little high given how we saw Winthrop struggle against High Point and Tubby Smith's team over the weekend. I would probably take USC upstate and playing at home as opposed to Winthrop. It's tough to trust the Eagles given the fact that they're 3-6 as a road team this year.
Well, there you go. All right. So I hope Sly has a good time at the hockey game tonight. And look,
Ryan, not
is it Ryan that's going? Okay.
Ryan's going.
Root on your Sharks. You'll find that the Capitals fans are very accommodating. They're not Philadelphia, so you'll be fine. And with TJ Oshie out, who knows? But at the end of the day, we'll see, and hope you have a good time. That's the most important thing. Anyway, any thoughts before we head on out here this afternoon? So I'll tell you what, everybody some good stuff. There's a lot of good hockey there. There's a lot of good college basketball. I mean, there's a ton of stuff to really sink your teeth into as you go into your evening and decide what you can be parlaying on.
Yeah, and I just like to, normally when we talk about football, we don't say a whole lot. I just want to, give on behalf of the Bills Mafia to give a shout out to the fans of the Chiefs who have donated over $184,000 to Oshai Children's Hospital as a tribute to Josh Allen. Last year they raised over $1 million to in honor of his grandmother. So shout out to the Chiefs Kingdom for doing that and taking a page out of what Buffalo fans have been doing the last few years with donating to charities. I mean, they did it with Andy Dalton a few years ago. They did Lamar Jackson last year. Yeah. I'm sure you guys heard about that up there in Baltimore, Jim, with his foundation where they raised over $500,000. It's nice to see another fan base pick up the gauntlet on that and do something for a good cause.
Right, and it's there's a lot of people who out in Kansas City have a great deal of respect for Josh Allen. So you can root for the people on the field, but whenever they're off the field, you got to give respect to the people, even if you happen to beat them. And in the case of that game, it was whoever had the ball last was going to win. And that was pretty much the way it is. But even had Andy Reid saying yesterday that he thought that there wouldn't be a bad idea to look into changing that playoff rule. So we'll see how that works out. But
all the people out there like Colin Cowherd and Louis Riddick who talk about how, played better defense or whatever, and, talking about how nobody complained about it before. If you remember when this happened 3 years ago, it was the Chiefs who tried to put in a rule change then.
right.
I know it didn't pass. The fact remains that, they tried to put in a rule change at that point. So it's not like it's uncommon ground.
No. All right, gang, hang on, because first two things. James, you're here, so for you, I'm going to make sure that if you didn't hear before, I'll say it again. Smash that like button and subscribe, and that way you'll know that every Wednesday we're on at 1 o'clock. Tomorrow, however, we're going to be back at our normal time, which is 1:30. So join us then. We thank you all for coming and joining us today, and have a lot of fun tonight. There's plenty of good stuff out there to bet on and to enjoy. So for Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying so long for right now. We'll be back, though. See you tomorrow, 1:30. Okay? See you then, guys. Bye. Okay. There we go.
I'm waiting for it.
Oh, there's any thoughts on the tennis semifinals?
I admittedly don't know enough about tennis to try and even make a guess.
Would they be talking about the women? Because the men's semifinals hasn't come up yet. So I like us. All right. Well, I won't talk about tennis because I got to go. But anyway, thanks for coming out at 1 o'clock.
Yep, we're still live.
And no, we're not. It's in broadcast. Oh.